They came from beyond the silent galaxies to claim the planet we called home. For most of human history, the galaxies beyond our own were silent. We studied them with telescopes, listened with machines, and searched for patterns in the endless dark. We heard nothing. No signals. No voices. No signs of life. The universe felt vast, empty, and indifferent. So we stopped expecting answers. Earth became loud instead. Cities grew brighter than stars. Satellites wrapped the planet like a metal shell. Humanity believed it stood alone, free to shape its future without interference from the cosmos. That belief would not last. The first sign did not come with fire or fear. It came with silence. In the year 2149, every deep space listening station on Earth recorded the same event at the same moment. A region of space beyond the Perseus Reach, once filled with background radiation and faint stellar noise, went completely quiet. No static. No cosmic hum. Just nothing. Scientists called it a sense of failure. Engineers blamed software glitches. Governments ignored it. But one woman did not. Dr. Ilara Miles had spent her life listening to space. She believed silence could speak louder than sound. When she saw the data, her hands trembled. "Space doesn't go quiet," she whispered. "Something erased it." She tried to warn the council. She sent reports. She begged for emergency observation time. Her requests were delayed, reviewed, and eventually forgotten. 2 weeks later, the stars began to move. At first, the changes were so small that only automated systems noticed. Tiny distortions in light. Slight gravitational shifts. The sky still looked normal to the human eye. Then one night, the moon flickered. People across the world looked up in confusion as a shadow passed over its surface. Not an eclipse, not a cloud, but something darker and sharper. Something that moved with intention. Panic spread through social networks within minutes. Astronomers confirmed the impossible. Massive objects were entering the solar system at speeds that defied known physics. They did not use conventional propulsion. They bent space around them, folding distance like fabric. Humanity was no longer alone. The first ship revealed itself above the atmosphere 3 days later. It did not descend like an aircraft. It appeared, as if reality had opened a wound in the sky. The vessel was vast, stretching longer than cities, shaped like a blackened arc of metal and stone. Its surface absorbed light, making it difficult to see where it ended and space began. Every satellite focused on it. Every weapon system locked on. No one fired. The ship simply hovered, casting a shadow over half a continent. Then the message arrived. It did not come through radio waves or screens. It appeared in human minds simultaneously, translated perfectly into every known language. "This world has been claimed." The message was calm, emotionless, certain. Governments demanded communication. Militaries prepared defenses. Religious leaders declared prophecy fulfilled. Ordinary people cried, prayed, or stared at the sky in stunned silence. Dr. Ilara Miles felt something colder than fear. "They are not asking," she said. "They are informing us." Within hours, more ships appeared. Not dozens. Hundreds. They surrounded Earth in precise formation, like hunters encircling prey that could not escape. Still, they did not attack. Days passed. Humanity waited for destruction that did not come. Instead, the second message arrived. "Your species has reached technological maturity. Your planet meets resource criteria. Resistance is unnecessary." The words struck deeper than any weapon. Earth was not special. Humanity was not chosen. We were evaluated. The visitors finally showed themselves. A delegation descended near what had once been a desert, now turned into a neutral landing zone by emergency agreement. Cameras from around the world broadcast the moment. The beings were tall, their forms slender and symmetrical. Their skin shimmered like dark glass, reflecting the sky. Their eyes glowed softly, not with malice, but with intelligence far older than humanity's civilizations. They called themselves the Aurelian Dominion. They had crossed silent galaxies where stars had long since died. They had outlived empires that spanned thousands of worlds. They had consumed planets, not out of cruelty, but necessity. Earth, they said, was perfect. Its oceans, its magnetic field, its living biosphere, and its inhabitants were adaptable. "You may remain," the Dominion's envoy explained, its voice resonating directly into human consciousness. "As labor, as subjects, as biological assets." The word home suddenly felt fragile. Protests erupted across the globe. Some demanded surrender. Others called for war, even if it meant extinction. Secret councils debated doomsday weapons that could scar the planet forever. Dr. Ilara Miles listened carefully to every word the aliens spoke. "They are not invincible," she said quietly to a small group of scientists and officers. "They are careful. And that means they fear something." As the Dominion began constructing structures in orbit, massive spires that drank energy from the sun, humanity realized the truth too late. The invasion had already begun. Not with bombs, but with ownership. And as Earth's skies filled with alien architecture, one final thought spread through the minds of billions. If they came from beyond the silent galaxies, what had made those galaxies silent in the first place? Earth did not fall in a single moment. It changed slowly, quietly, like a house being taken over room by room. The Aurelian Dominion never destroyed cities. They did not burn forests or poison oceans. Instead, they built above us. Vast structures formed in orbit, glowing rings and angular towers that slowly rotated around the planet. They called them custodial frames. "These are not weapons," the envoy announced. "They are guardians." Humanity quickly learned what that meant. No missile could leave Earth without permission. No spacecraft could enter orbit unless cleared by Dominion systems. Our skies were still blue, our streets still busy, but an invisible ceiling now existed above the world. We were free to walk, free to work, free to breathe, but not free to decide our future. Governments remained in place, but their power faded. Every major decision required Dominion approval. Energy grids were monitored. Communications filtered. Research into advanced physics was quietly restricted. The Dominion did not rule with fear. They ruled with certainty. "Your species is emotional," the envoy explained during one broadcast. "Emotions lead to instability. We will manage critical systems until your civilization adapts." Some humans welcomed this. Wars stopped almost overnight. Nuclear weapons were deactivated by systems no human could access. Famine declined as alien technology optimized food production. Peace arrived. But it was not our peace. Dr. Ilara Miles watched all of this with growing unease. She noticed patterns others ignored. Dominion ships never approached certain regions of space. Their technology, though advanced, avoided artificial intelligence beyond a specific limit. And most of all, they constantly scanned the cosmos. "They are afraid," she told her small circle again. "Not of us. Of something else." She wasn't alone in questioning the new order. Across the world, quiet resistance formed. Not armies, those would be useless, but thinkers, hackers, scientists, historians. They called themselves the Ember Network, believing that even a small spark could survive under the weight of an empire. Their goal was simple: understand the enemy. The Dominion rarely spoke of their past, but when they did, their words carried weight. They came from galaxies where stars had burned out long ago. Civilizations that had risen high, then vanished. Not destroyed by war, but by something far more complete: silence. "There are regions of space where nothing lives," the envoy once said. Not because life failed, but because it was removed. That single sentence haunted Ilara. With stolen access codes and forbidden observation time, the Ember Network studied ancient cosmic records. What they found chilled them. Entire galaxies showed signs of advanced civilizations that ended abruptly. Not slowly declining, but erased within a narrow window of time. No debris. No radiation scars. Just absence. As if reality itself had been cleaned. Ilara shared her conclusion with the group. "The Dominion didn't cause the silence," she said. "They survived it." That realization changed everything. If the Aurelians were survivors, then claiming Earth was not conquest. It was preparation. The truth emerged piece by piece. The Dominion had enemies. Not rivals. Not rebels. Something older. Something that hunted complexity. Wherever life became too advanced, too interconnected, it drew attention. The Aurelians called it the Null Choir. "They are not beings as you understand them," the envoy finally admitted under direct questioning. "They are corrections. When intelligence becomes a threat to cosmic balance, the choir removes it." Earth was growing too fast. Humanity's rapid technological growth had sent signals far into space. We had shouted into the dark without knowing who listened. The Dominion's arrival was not the beginning of danger. It was a shield. But shields have a cost. To hide Earth, The Dominion needed full control of the planet's energy output, communications, and expansion.
Humanity had to stop evolving freely. We had to slow down. To be quiet. This divided the world. Some humans accepted this as survival.
Better owned than extinct, they said. Others refused. A life without choice is not life.
The Ember Network chose the second path.
They searched for one thing the Dominion feared losing.
Knowledge.
Ilara focused on the silence beyond the galaxies. Using fragments of alien data, she discovered something remarkable.
The Null Choir did not destroy randomly.
They responded to patterns, specific kinds of intelligence, specific uses of energy. They can't hear everything, Ilara realized. Only certain frequencies of thought and technology. Humanity's strength had always been creativity.
Chaos.
Emotion. What if those traits made us invisible? The Dominion believed humans were dangerous because of how fast we changed. But that same unpredictability might be our greatest weapon. The Ember Network began a dangerous experiment. They built a hidden signal, not a broadcast, but a question. A form of communication based on art, emotion, and contradiction.
Something illogical by machine standards.
Something human. When the signal was ready, Ilara hesitated. If the choir hears this, someone warned, we could doom the planet. If we stay silent forever, Ilara replied, we're already doomed.
They sent it. Nothing happened. Days passed. The Dominion did not react. The skies remained unchanged.
Then, one night, a single Aurelian ship altered its position, slightly, but unmistakably. For the first time since arriving, the Dominion was responding to something it did not control. The envoy appeared again, its presence sharper than before. What have you done? It asked.
Ilara stood before the world and answered honestly.
We spoke in our own voice. The envoy studied her in silence. You do not understand the risk, it said.
We understand it better than you think, Ilara replied.
You survived by becoming careful. We survived by becoming something new. For the first time, the Aurelian Dominion showed uncertainty. And far beyond the edge of known space, something ancient shifted its attention. The silent galaxies were no longer completely silent. The signal changed everything. For centuries, humanity had assumed that survival meant submission. But now, with one deliberate act of defiance, the Ember Network proved otherwise. The Aurelian Dominion, calm and precise for millennia, paused. Their calculated control wavered. Governments watched, confused and fearful, as the Dominion shifted its orbiting structures slightly, adjusting energy flows, studying Earth in ways never seen before. They had no precedent for a species that could act unpredictably on purpose. Ilara knew this was the first advantage humans had ever held. But advantage did not mean safety. The Ember Network expanded rapidly. Hidden labs and communication hubs emerged in remote places, abandoned satellites, deep caves, and underground cities. They trained specialists to send signals not meant for the Dominion, but to explore a more dangerous audience, the Null Choir. For the first time, humanity glimpsed the edge of cosmic danger. The choir was no enemy to negotiate with. It was a force of nature, capable of erasing entire galaxies without warning. Any pattern of advanced life could attract its attention. Earth had been marked. The Dominion's presence, the orbiting custodial frames, and the subtle monitoring were not acts of benevolence. They were quarantine. They were shields to hide us from a predator far beyond our understanding. Ilara and her team knew they could not rely solely on alien protection.
They needed more. They needed the choir to see Earth differently.
And so they created the illogical signal, an unpredictable, contradictory, creative burst of communication that mixed art, mathematics, sound, and thought. It was chaotic by design, impossible for any machine or natural algorithm to fully interpret. It was humanity itself, condensed into a cosmic fingerprint. The Ember Network broadcast it. At first, nothing happened.
The sky remained full of Aurelian ships.
Satellites continued to monitor every human action.
But slowly, subtle changes began to ripple through the Dominion. Ships slowed. Patterns faltered.
Orbital structures rotated unevenly. Energy readings wavered. For the first time in centuries, the Aurelians were responding to something beyond their control. The envoy appeared before Ilara in the mind space where they communicated. It shimmered like black glass, emotionless yet tense.
This is impossible, it said.
You have introduced variables we cannot predict.
Ilara stood firm. It is what makes us human.
And it is what may save us. The envoy hesitated. Then, unexpectedly, it asked a question no human had heard before. Do you understand what the choir is? Yes, Ilara said. We understand it can erase everything that grows too fast, too far, too bright. We also understand that survival depends on being seen differently than a threat.
The envoy fell silent. For the first time, it paused without an answer.
Meanwhile, across the globe, humanity began to awaken. People who had been paralyzed by fear realized the Dominion could be unsettled. Small acts of rebellion, restarting old technology, creating unmonitored communities, inventing new patterns of music and mathematics, spread like sparks through dry grass. The Dominion watched closely, but it could not predict or fully control creativity. And that creativity was contagious.
The choir stirred.
Beyond the silent galaxies, a ripple of attention spread. Worlds that had been erased long ago flickered faintly in memory, like echoes of lost civilizations. Something massive, ancient, and incomprehensible was awakening.
Earth was no longer a quiet planet.
It had become a signal. Ilara felt it in her bones, the pressure of a predator that did not think like humans, nor like Aurelians. The null choir was aware. It could sense the patterns of intelligence, the energy, the life, and it had begun to notice our presence.
The Dominion convened a council in orbit.
Thousands of ships formed geometric arrays, their lights flickering like stars in calculated rhythm. They debated, communicated, and reanalyzed the chaotic signals Earth had produced. Finally, they made a decision. They could protect Earth from the choir only if humans learned to control themselves. Not with weapons, not with fear, but with discipline and restraint, guided by the Dominion.
But restraint was not enough for Ilara.
Humanity had to fight not just to survive, but to remain free. That meant teaching people how to use unpredictability as a weapon. To turn creativity into defense. The Ember Network prepared the next stage. The Signal Web, a global network of human minds, devices, art, and thought, all broadcasting in a synchronized, unpredictable pattern designed to confuse, mislead, and repel the choir. As the first nodes came online, the Dominion grew anxious. They could manipulate individual humans, control infrastructure, and monitor the planet, but they could not fully control creativity.
It was a flaw in their perfect system.
And the choir was coming closer. At the edge of the solar system, dark shapes appeared. Massive forms that warped space and light. They were not ships, not beings in the sense humans understood. They were correction itself, an endless, consuming intelligence moving toward us. Stars in its path dimmed as if their energy was being absorbed.
The Aurelians had never seen one so close.
Earth had never faced one before. Ilara watched the sky from a high cliff as the distant forms bent light around them.
Her mind connected to the Ember Network. This is it, she said.
We either make ourselves invisible in a way even the choir cannot predict, or we vanish like the others. Somewhere in orbit, the Dominion's envoy mirrored her fear, if not humanly, then in the cold calculations of its consciousness. The quiet galaxies had not been silent forever. They had been waiting. And now, their hunters had found us. Satellites malfunctioned in strange, synchronized patterns. Aurora-like ripples danced across the upper atmosphere, shifting colors no one could name. Birds and animals fled in instinctive panic. And at the edge of the solar system, something moved that made even the Aurelians pause. A dark, undulating mass, stretching farther than the eye, or any sensor, could reach.
It was the null choir. Not a fleet.
Not creatures.
Not even machines.
It was a force of erasure, moving with intention beyond comprehension.
Stars dimmed as it passed. Signals were swallowed mid-transmission.
Time itself seemed distorted in its presence. On Earth, people stared at the night sky in terror and awe. The Ember Network sprang into action, guiding humanity's first coordinated defense, not with weapons, but with thought, creativity, and unpredictability. Art, music, literature, mathematics, anything that could introduce chaos into an otherwise ordered signal, was harnessed and transmitted globally. Ilara watched as billions of human minds synchronized in a single purpose: to survive. The signal web pulsed, sending a chaotic wave of energy and thought into space, directed but unpredictable. The Aurelians, for the first time in millennia, were unsure. Their custodial frames adjusted. Energy flows shifted. They tried to predict the choir's response, but the chaotic signals confounded every algorithm, every simulation. One of the Dominion ships hovered above Alara as she directed operations. Its form shimmered, reflecting light like black glass, but it did not speak in words. It communicated directly into her mind, each thought precise but tinged with an unfamiliar tension. "You are reckless," it said. "This will not save you." "We have no choice," Alara replied. "We either act, or we cease to exist." The choir responded almost immediately. At first, it was subtle. A flicker in a distant star. A quiver in the fabric of space. Then it became undeniable. Entire regions of the outer solar system vanished from observation. Gravity fields shifted. The sun's corona flared in patterns that defied natural physics. The null choir was testing Earth. The Dominion acted swiftly. Their ships moved to intercept the nearest waves of erasure, creating shields that bent and warped space itself. They whispered warnings to humanity: stay inside, follow protocols, conserve energy. But Alara knew that the signal web was humanity's weapon. Retreat would mean failure. For the first time, humans and Aurelians worked together, but uneasily. The Dominion maintained control of orbital structures, while humanity controlled the chaotic broadcast. Coordination was fragile. Any misstep could draw the choir's attention directly to the planet's surface. Then, disaster struck. A massive wave of null energy approached the outer planets. It would reach Earth in minutes if nothing blocked it. Dominion shields flickered under the strain. Communications with a signal web began to fail as the choir's presence disrupted frequencies. Alara's heart pounded. She turned to her team. "We have one chance. Amplify the signal. Make it impossible to categorize. Let them see us, but not understand us." Artists, engineers, mathematicians, and dreamers worked feverishly. The signal web became a storm of light, sound, and thought. Human consciousness intertwined with technology in a pattern the choir could not reduce to logic. The wave hit. Space folded in unnatural ways. Shadows stretched across the sky. For a moment, the Earth itself seemed suspended between existence and oblivion. Then, silence. Not the peaceful silence of empty space, but the quiet of something paused, considering. The choir hesitated. Its movement slowed, bent around the chaotic pulse. It had never encountered anything like this. Life, raw and illogical, resisting erasure. The Aurelians floated above the planet, tense. Even they had never faced a predator they could not predict. Alara's signal continued, pulsing and shifting. Every human who participated felt a strange unity. Fear and creativity merged into one force. For the first time, the choir recoiled. It did not retreat completely. It could not. Its nature demanded scrutiny and correction. But it pulled back, breaking its advance long enough for Earth to survive this initial encounter. The Dominion, visibly shaken, hovered above humanity. Its envoy communicated directly into Alara's mind once again. "You have bought time," it said. "But understand this: the choir will return. This is only a delay. Its attention is permanent. Its observation is endless." Alara wiped sweat from her brow. "Time is what we need. And if we survive this, maybe we can fight back on our own terms." The human world was forever changed. Cities were still standing. Oceans were still blue. The sun still rose each morning. But everyone knew something unimaginable had occurred. Earth had survived an encounter with a force that erased worlds. And yet, even in the quiet that followed, a new fear took root. The choir was still out there, and it had learned to notice us. The Aurelians no longer treated humanity as mere subjects. They began to respect, or perhaps fear, human unpredictability. Humans had become something the Dominion had never planned for, an active variable in the vast, deadly equation of the cosmos. Alara looked to the night sky, her eyes reflecting faint auroras left behind by the choir's passage. Somewhere beyond the silent galaxies, watchers still waited. But for now, Earth had survived. And humanity had discovered its first lesson. To survive the universe, sometimes the greatest weapon is chaos itself. The world changed after the choir's first approach. For the first time, humanity realized that survival was not about hiding or obeying the Dominion, it was about learning to be unpredictable. The Ember Network became the backbone of this new era, teaching humans to think in ways that no machine or alien algorithm could anticipate. Alara led a council of scientists, engineers, artists, and even philosophers. Their task was simple in theory but almost impossible in practice: prepare the species for a predator that erased entire civilizations with ease. Humanity's new training programs were unlike any military academy.
They were schools of chaos.
Children learned to think abstractly, adults learned improvisation, and everyone participated in global simulations that combined art, science, and mathematics in unpredictable patterns.
Music, visual art, and literature became tactical exercises.
Every human thought, every act of creativity, can become part of our shield, Ilara explained during one early broadcast to the network.
We are not building weapons.
We are building patterns the choir cannot erase. The Dominion, while initially skeptical, provided subtle guidance. They allowed selective access to orbital platforms, not as overlords but as mentors. Aurelian scholars taught humans advanced physics, energy manipulation, and deep space observation, but never strategy.
That, the Dominion realized, had to remain human.
Your species' unpredictability is useful, the envoy said privately to Ilara. But do not believe it will save you forever.
Ilara did not respond.
Humanity would not live in fear forever. Meanwhile, subtle shifts continued in space. The choir's presence remained, always at the edge of perception. Satellites detected distortions in deep space, small gaps where stars had disappeared, faint ripples of energy that could only belong to something incomprehensibly vast. The Ember network discovered that the choir responded most aggressively to predictable energy patterns, power grids, conventional communications, repetitive behavior. By introducing irregular signals and chaotic energy fluctuations, humanity could remain partially invisible.
It was a dangerous strategy. Miscalculate, and the choir might notice too late. But it was the only hope.
Ilara also began to uncover secrets about the Aurelians themselves. The Dominion had survived the choir for millennia, yes, but they had done so by abandoning worlds, leaving behind destroyed civilizations as they retreated. They were guardians, but not saviors. Humanity would survive, if at all, because it refused to be predictable.
Global morale fluctuated. Some people embraced the chaos as empowerment.
Others longed for order, wishing for the Dominion's strict control to continue. Entire industries shifted toward unpredictable innovation. Engineers built devices with random outputs, artists created unsolvable visual patterns, and mathematicians explored paradoxes. Every human contribution became part of a living shield around the planet. And the choir continued to watch. One night, deep space sensors detected movement closer than ever before. Faint structures, impossibly large, appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were not ships in any conventional sense, nor beings. They were massive distortions in reality itself, slowly folding toward Earth. The Dominion acted immediately. Every orbital platform extended energy shields. Ships formed intricate geometric arrays designed to delay the choir. But even their advanced technology could not fully predict the approaching force.
Ilara's signal web activated.
The combined creativity of billions pulsed into space. Music, abstract equations, chaotic visual streams, mental projections, all blended into one massive, human-crafted pulse.
It was a gamble.
The choir hesitated. The human-created chaos made it pause, its incomprehensible patterns struggling to process the randomness. For a moment, humans were not prey.
They were something new, something the choir could not define.
In orbit, the Aurelians watched in awe and fear. Your species may be dangerous, the envoy admitted to Ilara. Not because of strength, but because you are impossible to predict. Ilara allowed herself a small smile.
Humanity had found its first real power. Yet she also understood the truth. This was only the beginning.
The choir would return, larger and more focused. It would not forget the planet that had shouted in defiance. Earth's survival depended not on weapons or fleets, but on the continual growth of human unpredictability, creativity, and chaos.
Humanity was learning to fight with imagination.
And that, more than anything else, might be the key to surviving the end of everything. Earth was no longer simply a planet. It had become a test, a beacon of chaos in the vast, silent corridors of space.
The null choir had not retreated.
Its presence grew like a shadow across the solar system, bending light, swallowing signals, and distorting reality. Even the Aurelians, the seasoned survivors of countless civilizations, admitted they had never witnessed anything like it. Ilara stood on the observation deck of one of the Dominion's orbital platforms, her eyes scanning the stars. The signal web hummed beneath her feet, connecting billions of minds in one synchronized pulse of unpredictable energy. Every thought, every artistic creation, every mathematical paradox contributed to Earth's defense. Do you truly believe this can stop it? Asked an Aurelian envoy, its form shimmering like fractured obsidian. Its voice resonated in her mind, calm but tense.
I don't know, she replied. But we have no other choice.
Chaos is our shield, creativity our weapon. If we fail, humanity ends. If we succeed, we change the rules of survival.
The Aurelians did not respond.
They could not fully understand human unpredictability. Their logic-driven minds grasped patterns, simulations, probabilities, but they could not anticipate imagination. Across the globe, humans trained harder than ever. Entire cities became laboratories of unpredictability. Artists created paradoxical sculptures that altered their shape based on observer behavior. Musicians composed symphonies that never repeated the same note sequence twice. Scientists devised experiments that deliberately produced random outcomes. Every creation was a pulse in the signal web, a ripple designed to confuse the choir. And the choir watched.
Then came the first strike. It was not a direct attack. It could not be.
The null choir did not use conventional force. Instead, it warped space near the asteroid belt, pulling rocks and ice into impossible orbits. Meteors rained toward the outer planets, smashing satellites and testing the Dominion's shields. Time itself seemed to stretch, making seconds feel like hours. Humanity responded with chaotic bursts of energy. Randomized transmissions, unpredictable light pulses, and creative patterns flowed through the signal web. The choir hesitated, faltered, and redirected its destructive waves. For the first time, humans realized their chaos could influence reality at a cosmic scale.
But victory was not certain.
Deep in space, the choir's presence intensified. Sensors detected a massive core of concentrated energy, a distortion that seemed to think and perceive.
It was not alive in the human sense, but it understood patterns.
It had been erasing civilizations for millennia, yet Earth's unpredictable pulse puzzled it. The Aurelians convened a council. Ships formed defensive arrays, but the discussion was unprecedented. They are different, one envoy admitted. Their unpredictability is a weapon.
We did not anticipate it.
We underestimated them. Ilara realized the truth. Humanity's survival depended on more than defense. They had to act offensively, not with conventional weapons, but by amplifying chaos across the solar system. The signal web would extend beyond Earth, infecting satellites, orbital platforms, and even Dominion ships with controlled unpredictability.
Plans were set into motion.
Humans would coordinate with Aurelians, but the key would be human intuition and creativity, beyond the scope of alien logic. The first offensive test began near Jupiter. Massive energy pulses, composed of billions of chaotic human contributions, were projected toward the choir's outer edge.
The effect was immediate and stunning.
The choir recoiled, waves of energy collapsing in unexpected directions, disoriented by the unpredictable patterns. For the first time, humans realized they could influence the null choir, even if only slightly.
But the triumph was short-lived.
Sensors detected a new anomaly. Fragments of ancient civilizations previously erased by the choir were flickering into existence, like echoes of worlds trying to remember themselves. They were unstable, collapsing, and vanishing almost instantly, but their patterns interfered with the signal web, introducing unknown variables.
Ilara studied them closely.
She understood that the choir was not mindless. It responded to the growth of intelligence and the creation of energy patterns. Each civilization it destroyed had left traces, and Earth's chaotic signal was activating those echoes, intentionally or not. "This is bigger than survival," she said to the Ember Network.
"We're not just defending Earth.
We're awakening the memory of the universe itself." The Aurelians, finally understanding the stakes, agreed to cooperate fully. They began integrating human-designed chaotic signals into their orbital platforms, enhancing unpredictability across the solar system. And then, the choir shifted. It moved closer, a wave of distortion stretching across billions of kilometers. Its observation of Earth became more focused, its probing more intense. For the first time, it responded directly to human chaos, not with destruction, but with adaptation. Ilara knew the truth. The choir was learning. It could evolve in response to unpredictability. Survival depended on humanity staying ahead, continuously expanding its creativity and chaos in ways no being, or force, could anticipate. The universe had become a battlefield, not of weapons, but of imagination.
And humanity was no longer prey.
They were combatants. The solar system had become a living battlefield. Not of missiles or armies, but of patterns, chaos, and thought. Humanity, once fragile and isolated, now radiated unpredictability across the planets. Every creation, every idea, every heartbeat became part of a vast defense. Elara Miles stood on the surface of a massive Dominion orbital station above Earth, staring into the depths of space. The choir's presence loomed like an unending shadow, stretching across the outer solar system. Stars flickered unnaturally where its attention passed. Entire asteroid fields were warped, bending light and matter as if reality itself feared to resist. "We've slowed it," Elara said, speaking to the assembled humans and Aurelians.
But the choir is not retreating.
"It's adapting." The Aurelians nodded, a subtle tension vibrating through their perfect forms. Even after millennia of survival, they had never faced an adversary like this, one that could change with unpredictability rather than logic. Across Earth, humanity's signal web pulsed like a living organism. Artists, engineers, and dreamers worked tirelessly, introducing new layers of chaos daily. Music composed of impossible rhythms echoed in space. Visual art shifted and mutated mid-creation. Scientists devised paradoxical experiments whose results could not be anticipated. Every pulse, every act of creation, was a weapon.
And the choir responded.
It warped space and energy in unpredictable ways, consuming and reshaping entire regions near the Kuiper Belt.
Its forms were no longer distant.
They moved closer, massive, incomprehensible, stretching across billions of kilometers. The Aurelians deployed custodial frames, folding space to shield Earth, but even their calculations faltered against the chaotic onslaught.
Elara realized humanity had to go further.
Passive unpredictability was no longer enough. They had to direct chaos offensively. The Ember Network initiated the pattern offensive. Massive arrays of creative energy were synchronized across the globe. Each human participant contributed to a complex web of signals designed to confuse, mislead, and ultimately repel the choir. The patterns were alive, evolving constantly, and impossible to predict, even by humans themselves. For the first time, humanity struck back at a predator that had never been defeated. The choir reacted violently. Waves of distortion tore through the outer solar system. Meteors shifted erratically, gravitational fields warped, and lights flickered across the Dominion's orbital platforms. The Aurelians struggled to maintain stability, but the chaos worked in humanity's favor. The offensive was successful, but at a cost. Signals from Earth began to merge with echoes of ancient civilizations previously erased by the choir. These ghost patterns, fragments of intelligence long vanished, interacted unpredictably with human chaos. Some destabilized the signal web, causing temporary disruptions on Earth and in orbit. Others amplified the offensive, creating waves of unpredictable energy that even the choir could not fully control. Elara understood what this meant. The choir was not invincible. It could be manipulated, confused, even delayed.
But humanity had to remain vigilant.
One misstep, one pattern repeated too perfectly, and the predator could strike again. Amidst the chaos, a startling revelation emerged. The choir was not merely a force of erasure, it was a conservator of cosmic order. Its purpose was to eliminate civilizations that grew too fast, too connected, or too advanced, threatening the balance of the universe. The Aurelians had survived because they had learned to evade detection, abandoning entire worlds rather than confronting the choir directly. Humanity's unpredictability offered a new path, defense through creativity rather than submission. "This is our chance," Elara told the Ember Network. "We are the first species to fight the choir on our terms. Not with force, but with imagination." The pattern offensive reached its climax near Neptune. Signals of impossible complexity spread across billions of kilometers. The choir reacted violently, twisting space itself, but for the first time, its advance was truly slowed. It was confused, disoriented, and unable to anticipate the next chaotic surge.
The Aurelians marveled.
"Your species may survive," the envoy admitted, its tone carrying the closest thing to respect they had ever expressed. But even in victory, Elara knew the danger remained. The choir was still out there, still learning, still watching. Every day, humanity had to evolve its chaos, invent new patterns, and expand its unpredictability. The battle was no longer just for survival, it was a test of intelligence, creativity, and resilience on a cosmic scale. And beyond the silent galaxies, countless other civilizations waited, some extinct, some hiding, whose fates had been sealed by the choir. Earth had become both shield and signal, a testament that intelligence could fight for its right to exist. Ilara looked to the stars and whispered, "We are alive. But survival is only the beginning." The choir recoiled slightly, disrupted, but still observing. Humanity had won this encounter, but the final confrontation was still ahead. And when it came, Earth would need every ounce of imagination, unpredictability, and courage it could summon. For the first time, humans understood that the universe was not just a place to live, it was a battlefield of ideas. And on this battlefield, their minds were their greatest weapons. Time passed differently on Earth now. The skies remained watched, the orbiting Aurelians ever present, and the distant shadows of the null choir stretched beyond the solar system. But humanity had learned to thrive in unpredictability. Every thought, creation, and invention became part of a living shield, a chaotic tapestry that no predator could fully map. Ilara Miles stood on a cliff overlooking the ocean, feeling the wind on her face. The waves shimmered faintly with reflections of orbiting platforms and energy fields from the signal web. Humanity had survived its first confrontation, but the battle was far from over.
Yet something extraordinary had occurred.
The choir, ancient and incomprehensible, had begun to adapt not with destruction, but with restraint.
It no longer pushed forward blindly.
Instead, it observed, hesitant, studying the unpredictable patterns humanity broadcasted. For the first time, humans were not merely prey. They were a new kind of force in the universe, one the choir could not easily erase.
The Aurelians acknowledged it openly now.
Their presence shifted from silent oversight to cooperation. They assisted in expanding the signal web beyond Earth, into the outer planets, deep space satellites, and even beyond the solar system. Together, humans and Aurelians wove patterns of creativity and unpredictability that blanketed the system in a defense no force had ever faced.
Ilara addressed the global network.
Today, we have survived not because of weapons, not because of strength, but because of imagination.
Chaos is our armor. Creativity is our shield.
And unpredictability is our power. In response, billions of humans sent pulses of art, thought, and invention into the signal web. Light, sound, and energy blended across continents and space, forming a tapestry that even the choir could not fully comprehend. And the null choir, for the first time in its millennia of judgment, paused.
It did not retreat completely.
Its presence remained, vast and eternal, a reminder that the universe demanded balance. But Earth had become more than a target, it had become a statement. A species had risen that could survive by refusing to conform, by embracing unpredictability as life itself. The Aurelians, once detached and calculating, now regarded humanity with a new understanding. "You are different," the envoy admitted. "Not powerful in the way we are, but unpredictable. That is your strength."
Humans began to rebuild.
Cities thrived with new designs, blending chaos and functionality. Energy systems operated in randomized patterns. Education focused on imagination as much as logic. Humanity had not just survived, it had evolved, learning to live in harmony with unpredictability while remaining prepared for cosmic threats. Recalculating, learning, humanity had carved its place among the stars, not by strength, not by conquest, but by being truly, irreducibly human. Earth remained home. But it had become something greater, a beacon of chaos, creativity, and survival, echoing across the universe for all who might listen.
The battle had not ended.
The universe remained vast, indifferent, and dangerous. But humanity had discovered the most powerful truth of all. Sometimes, the wild, unpredictable mind is the only weapon capable of challenging eternity itself.